The frozen winds of Kilo 7 howled outside the metal walls of the small repair station. Tomel, a quiet human mechanic, sat near his old heater, fixing a broken drone leg. He had lived alone for almost a year now, away from the busy trade routes. People didn't come to this moon often. Too cold, too quiet, just the way he liked it. Suddenly, the silence broke. A loud boom echoed through the air, followed by a bright flash in the dark sky. Tomel jumped to his feet and rushed to the window. A burning object was falling fast right over the snowy ridge. Then came a second boom as it crashed into the ice valley beyond. A ship, Tomel muttered. It's a crash. He quickly pulled on his thick coat and snow goggles, grabbed his sled bike, and headed toward the smoke. Snow whipped around him, but his curiosity was stronger than the storm. Crashes were rare here, very rare, and something in his gut told him this one was not normal. When he reached the crash site, he slowed down. The ship was unlike anything he had seen before. Smooth silver surface, glowing lines running along its body. No human-made design matched it. Cautiously, Tomel stepped closer. The back of the ship was broken open. Small fires burned in the snow. Inside, he saw movement, a figure struggling to crawl out. Without thinking, he ran forward. "Wait, I'll help you," he shouted. The figure collapsed just outside the door. Tomel reached her and froze. It was a woman, but not human. She had pale teal blue skin, long dark hair, and glowing marks along her neck. Her clothes were torn and strange-looking, covered in frost and dust. She looked weak, barely breathing, but her eyes opened as he touched her shoulder. "You, not enemy?" she asked softly. "No, I'm just a mechanic," he said, unsure. If she understood him, she smiled faintly, then passed out. Tomel looked around. Whoever attacked her might come back. He couldn't leave her here. He wrapped her in a heat blanket, pulled her onto his sled bike, and drove back to the station. Inside, he placed her on the bed, started the heater, and gave her some clean water. She was still unconscious. He checked her wounds, light burns and cuts, nothing too serious, but her body trembled. Near her waist, wrapped in a golden cloth, was a small glowing crystal. It pulsed with soft light. Tomel didn't know what it was, but he left it alone. Hours passed. Finally, the alien woman woke up. "You, help me," she said, her voice weak but clear. Tomel nodded. "I found you in the snow. You were hurt. I am Iral, daughter of the Solari house," she said, sitting up slowly. "You have done a brave thing. A rare thing." Tomel rubbed the back of his neck. "I just didn't want you to die out there." Iral looked at him with calm eyes. "On my world, when someone saves a royal life, their fates are joined. A bond is formed." Tomel frowned. "A bond?" She didn't answer. Instead, she looked around the room, then down at the crystal beside her. "That is the Heartstone. I was protecting it when my ship was attacked." "By who?" Tomel asked. "I don't know. They came from the dark side of the system. No signals, no warnings. They wanted the stone. Or maybe me." Tomel didn't know what to say. He had fixed broken machines, fought off ice wolves, and once survived a lightning storm. But this was new. "I won't tell anyone you're here," he said after a moment. "You can rest. Heal." Iral smiled. "You are kind, Tomel." "How do you know my name?" he asked, surprised. "You spoke it in your mind. Our bond is already starting." Tomel blinked. "Wait, what?" Before he could say more, a sound outside caught their attention. A ship, not crashing landing. Tomel looked at Iral. "Did you call someone?" "No," she whispered. "I think they followed me." He rushed to the door and peeked out. A large silver shuttle had landed near the station. Several tall figures stepped out wearing long coats and masks. Their suits didn't look friendly. "Iral," Tomel said quickly, "you have to hide." But she stood beside him now, her eyes firm. "No. If they are Solari guards, they will know I'm alive. If they are enemies, then your life is in danger." 2. Tomel grabbed a welding torch and handed her a small knife. "Let's hope they're just here to say hello." 3 figures entered the station. Their leader pulled off his mask, revealing a face with glowing marks like Irel's. He knelt on one knee and spoke in a deep voice. Princess Irel, you live. The Empire rejoices. Irel gave a small bow. Thank you, Commander. The man looked at Tomel. Is this the one who saved you? Yes, she said. He is my life mate now. Tomel's mouth dropped open. Wait, what now? The commander looked at him with respect. Then you must come with us. By law, you are bonded. You are part of the royal house now. Tomel blinked again. He had only meant to help someone in need, fix a wound, offer a bed. Now he was being taken into space as the life mate of a princess. He looked at Irel. She smiled gently. It's tradition, she said to Mel's side. Next time. I'm just fixing the drone. Tomel had never been on a starship before. Not a real one, anyway. The inside of the Solari command ship was unlike anything he had seen. Smooth walls that hummed softly, lights that changed color when someone walked by, an air that smelled clean, almost too clean. He sat on a silver bench near a wide window. Stars moved slowly outside. Somewhere in the distance, a blue planet spun in silence. Everything felt big. Across from him sat Irel, the alien princess he had rescued from the crash. Her long teal blue hair was now brushed and tied neatly, and she wore a clean, white uniform with glowing threads along the arms. She looked calm, peaceful. Tomel, on the other hand, was still confused. I don't understand, he said, breaking the silence. How can saving you make me your life mate? That's not how things work on Earth. Irel gave a small smile. I know, but you are not on Earth now. He looked down at his hands. I'm just a mechanic. I fix broken machines. I live alone on a frozen moon. I'm not meant for this. You're brave. Irel said softly. You acted without reward. You protected someone you didn't know. In Solari tradition, that kind of action is rare, invaluable. Tomel shook his head. I didn't do it for tradition. I just didn't want you to die. That is exactly why the bond is made. Before Tomel could respond, a door opened with a soft hiss. A tall Solari male walked in. He wore gold armor, and his eyes glowed faintly. Forgive the interruption, he said, bowing. I am Commander Roval. Irel, your message has reached the royal station. The High Circle awaits your return. Irel nodded. And the Heart Stone? Protected. Thanks to this human. Roval turned to Tomel and bowed again. You have saved more than a life. You may have saved our future. Tomel didn't know what to say. He wasn't used to bows or glowing eyes. The commander spoke again. By Solari law, your bond is recognized. But there is a problem. Some on the council do not accept humans. They will try to break the life mate law. For political reasons, Tomel frowned. Break the law. Why? Because Earth is still unknown. Too many, Roval said. Some think your kind is dangerous. Tomel stood. We're not dangerous. At least, not most of us. I believe you, Roval said. But they fear what they don't understand. Tomel looked at Irel. She gave a gentle nod. We must return to the capital, she said. There, you will speak to the council. If they accept you, the bond will stay. If not, what happens if they don't? Tomel asked. Irel didn't answer. She looked away. Later that day, the ship moved into faster travel. The stars stretched into bright lines. Time seemed to slow. Tomel walked through the ship's long halls. Everything was quiet, but not cold. Solari crew nodded to him, some with curious eyes, others with warm smiles. They had heard what happened. Some called him Protector. Others whispered, the Chosen One. He didn't like those names. At the food deck, a small girl with light blue skin ran up to him. Is it true? She asked. Did you pull Princess Irel from a burning ship with your bare hands? Tomel chuckled. It wasn't that dramatic. She looked up with wide eyes. Still sounds cool. He smiled. Well, she helped me too. I couldn't have gotten us out without her. The girl nodded seriously. That's what a life mate does. She ran off before he could say anything more. That evening, Irel met him on the viewing deck. The stars outside had returned to normal, bright and still. I've been thinking, Tomel said, standing beside her. Maybe I shouldn't come with you to the council. Maybe it's better if I just go back. Iroh looked at him. Quiet for a moment. Do you feel the bond? She asked. To Mel blinked. What do you mean? When I was wounded, she said, I felt alone. Cold. Then I felt a warmth. A presence. That was you. Tomo rubbed his arms. I just pulled you out of the snow. No, she said. You gave me a reason to fight, to live. That's not something we forget. He looked at her and saw something different now, not just a royal figure or a stranger. She was someone who believed in honor, in duty, in quiet strength. I don't know what I feel, he admitted, but I don't want to see you forced into something just because of me, she smiled. Tomo, I don't feel forced. They stood in silence. Then a loud beep echoed through the ship. Attention, incoming vessel detected. Raval's voice came through the intercom. A known ship approaching. All crew to stations. Tomo turned to Iroh. Trouble. She nodded. Maybe the ones who attacked me found us again. Soon. The control room buzzed with noise. Iroh, Roval, and several guards watched the screens. The incoming ship was dark. Quiet, no signal. No message. It didn't match any known records. Could be pirates, one officer said, or worse. Roval replied. The enemy ship moved closer. Then, without warning, it opened fire. Red beams sliced through space. The Solari ship shook. Lights flickered. Shields holding. A pilot shouted. But they're powerful. Tomo held onto a rail, heart racing. This is because of me, isn't it? He asked Iroh. No, she said. This is because of the Heartstone. They want what I carry. But you are part of this now. Roval handed Tomo a small device. If we are boarded, press this. It will shield you. Tomo looked at it. I'm not a soldier. You don't have to be, Iroh said. Just stay alive. The ship moved into evasive action. Beams fired. Explosions flashed outside. Tomo gripped the rail tighter. He had come from a cold, quiet moon. Now he was in the middle of a space battle. He didn't know what would happen next, but one thing was clear: his life would never be the same again. The enemy ship fired again. Bright red blasts hit the Solari command ship's shields. The metal walls shook. Alarms flashed. Crew members moved quickly, following orders. The control room buzzed with voices, but through it all, Tomo stood still, trying to breathe. He had never been in a real fight, not like this. This is not just a pirate attack, Commander Roval said, eyes locked on the screen. Their weapons are advanced, too advanced. Iroh stood next to him, her face calm but serious. It's the same as before. The same energy weapons that shot me down. Tomo glanced at Iroh. Can we escape? Not yet, Roval said. They're blocking our jump path. The enemy ship circled them like a predator. It had no name, no markings. No signals, just black metal and silent guns. Tomo took a step back. I'm not a fighter. What am I even doing here? You're part of this now. Iroh said gently. You're not just a passenger. But I'm not a hero either, Tomo said. She placed a hand on his arm. Sometimes heroes are just people who don't run away. Before he could answer, a loud clang shook the deck. They've latched onto our hull. Someone shouted. Roval. Turn quickly. Prepare for boarding. All guards to defense positions. Tomo's heart pounded. He pulled the small device Roval had given him earlier, the emergency shield. It was no bigger than a palm, with a glowing blue button. Stay close to me, Iroh said. If something happens, press it. The attackers enter fast. Dark shapes burst through the airlock, tall, armor-covered beings with glowing red eyes. They moved without sound, without speech. Their weapons looked like long rods with spinning tips that hissed when they fired. The Solari guards met them with bright shields and energy blades. Sparks flew. Beams of light cut through the air. Mel ducked behind a wall with Iroh. She held a small crystal-shaped weapon in her hand. It glowed softly. What are they? Tomo whispered. We call them Nidal, she replied. They were believed to be gone lost in the void, but they're back. One of the Nidal turned and saw them. It raised its weapon. Down, Iroh shouted. Tomo dropped to the floor. The beam hit the wall behind him, melting part of it. Iroh fired back. Her crystal shot a pulse of blue light. The Nihil stumbled, then fell. Tomel sat up, breathing hard. That could have been me. But it wasn't, she said, helping him up. Stay alert. They moved quickly through the hallways, dodging fire and staying behind cover. More Nihil were spreading across the ship, but the Solari were holding strong, still. The attackers didn't seem interested in taking over. They're looking for something. Roval said through the comms. They're not here to destroy. They're here to find. Tomel looked at Iril. The Heartstone. She nodded. They know I have it. Then let's give them a reason to leave, Tomel said. They reached the center of the ship where the Heartstone had been placed. In a protected chamber. 2 guards stood in front of the door, already wounded. We must move it, Iril said. Tomel looked at the glowing crystal floating inside the chamber. It pulsed gently, like it was alive. He stepped closer, unsure why he wasn't afraid. As he touched the protective glass, something strange happened. The crystal glowed brighter. Words formed in his mind, not spoken, not written, just known. You are not what they think you are, but you are still enough. He stepped back quickly. Iril looked at him. What happened? I don't know. Tomel said. It spoke to me. Not out loud, just inside. She stared at him. No one but Solari royalty can hear its voice. Tomel frowned. Well, I heard it. It said I'm not what they think I am, but I'm enough. Raval's voice came again over the comms. They're falling back, returning to their ship. Tomel turned to Iril. They didn't get what they came for. No, she said, but they'll be back. Hours later, after repairs had started, and the dead had been honored, Tomel sat alone in a quiet room near the window. His mind raced. He had saved the princess. He had been claimed as her life mate. He had fought alien soldiers. And now a glowing crystal had spoken to him. Nothing made sense. Iril entered quietly and sat beside him. You did well today, she said. I was scared the whole time. Being brave doesn't mean not being scared, she said. It means you keep going even when you are. He looked at her. Why me, Iril? Why did I hear the crystal? She shook her head. I don't know. But the Heartstone doesn't choose by mistake. It must sense something inside you. He sighed. I'm no chosen one. I just fix broken drones. Maybe the galaxy doesn't need perfect warriors, she said softly. Maybe it needs people who fix what's broken. He smiled weakly. That sounds nice. Just then, Roval entered the room. We've received a message from the council, he said. They want to see you both. Immediately, Tomel stood. Are they angry? They are confused, Roval replied. But one thing is clear. The Nihil returned for the Heartstone and they left because of him. Iril looked at Tomel. They're starting to believe you are more than a life mate, Roval said. You may be something much older, something forgotten. Tomel frowned. I don't want to be a legend. Roval nodded. Then be a man, a good man. That might be even more powerful. The ship turned toward the capital world of the Solari. The stars shifted. Tomel didn't know what waited for him there. Questions, answers, more enemies? But one thing he did know. He wasn't just a mechanic anymore. The enemy ship fired again. Bright red blasts hit the Solari command ship's shields. The metal walls shook. Alarms flashed. Crew members moved quickly, following orders. The control room buzzed with voices, but through it all, Tomel stood still, trying to breathe. He had never been in a real fight, not like this. This is not just a pirate attack, Commander Roval said, eyes locked on the screen. Their weapons are advanced, too advanced. Iril stood next to him, her face calm but serious. It's the same as before. The same energy weapons that shot me down. Tomel glanced at Iril. Can we escape? Not yet, Roval said. They're blocking our jump path. The enemy ship circled them like a predator. It had no name, no markings. No signals, just black metal and silent guns. Tomel took a step back. I'm not a fighter. What am I even doing here? You're part of this now. Iril said gently. You're not just a passenger. But I'm not a hero either, Tomel said. She placed a hand on his arm. Sometimes heroes are just people who don't run away. Before he could answer, a loud clang shook the deck. They've latched onto our hull. Someone shouted, Roval. Turn quickly. Prepare for boarding. All guards to defense positions. Tomo's heart pounded. He pulled the small device Roval had given him earlier, the emergency shield. It was no bigger than a palm, with a glowing blue button. Stay close to me, Iril said. If something happens, press it. The attackers entered fast. Dark shapes burst through the airlock, tall, armor-covered beings with glowing red eyes. They moved without sound, without speech. Their weapons looked like long rods with spinning tips that hissed when they fired. The Solari guards met them with bright shields and energy blades. Sparks flew. Beams of light cut through the air. Tamel ducked behind a wall with Iril. She held a small crystal-shaped weapon in her hand. It glowed softly. What are they? Tomo whispered. We call them Nidal, she replied. They were believed to be gone lost in the void, but they're back. One of the Nidal turned and saw them. It raised its weapon. Down, Iril shouted. Tomo dropped to the floor. The beam hit the wall behind him, melting part of it. Iril fired back. Her crystal shot a pulse of blue light. The Nidal stumbled, then fell. Tomo sat up, breathing hard. That could have been me. But it wasn't, she said, helping him up. Stay alert. They moved quickly through the hallways, dodging fire and staying behind cover. More Nidal were spreading across the ship, but the Solari were holding strong, still. The attackers didn't seem interested in taking over. They're looking for something. Roval said through the comms. They're not here to destroy. They're here to find. Tomo looked at Iril. The Heart Stone. She nodded. They know I have it. Then let's give them a reason to leave, Tomo said. They reached the center of the ship where the Heart Stone had been placed. In a protected chamber. 2 guards stood in front of the door, already wounded. We must move it, Iril said. Tomo looked at the glowing crystal floating inside the chamber. It pulsed gently, like it was alive. He stepped closer, unsure why he wasn't afraid. As he touched the protective glass, something strange happened. The crystal glowed brighter. Words formed in his mind, not spoken, not written, just known. You are not what they think you are, but you are still enough. He stepped back quickly. Iril looked at him. What happened? I don't know. Tomo said. It spoke to me. Not out loud, just inside. She stared at him. No one but Solari royalty can hear its voice. Tomo frowned. Well, I heard it. It said I'm not what they think I am. But I'm enough. Roval's voice came again over the comms. They're falling back, returning to their ship. Tomo turned to Iril. They didn't get what they came for. No, she said. But they'll be back. Hours later, after repairs had started, and the dead had been honored, Tomo sat alone in a quiet room near the window. His mind raced. He had saved a princess. He had been claimed as her life mate. He had fought alien soldiers. And now a glowing crystal had spoken to him. Nothing made sense. Iril entered quietly and sat beside him. You did well today, she said. I was scared the whole time. Being brave doesn't mean not being scared, she said. It means you keep going even when you are. He looked at her. Why me, Iril? Why did I hear the crystal? She shook her head. I don't know. But the Heart Stone doesn't choose by mistake. It must sense something inside you. He sighed. I'm no chosen one. I just fix broken drones. Maybe the galaxy doesn't need perfect warriors, she said softly. Maybe it needs people who fix what's broken. He smiled weakly. That sounds nice. Just then, Roval entered the room. We've received a message from the council, he said. They want to see you both. Immediately, Tomo stood. Are they angry? They are confused, Roval replied. But one thing is clear. The Nidal returned for the Heart Stone and they left because of him. Iril looked at Tomo. They're starting to believe you are more than a life mate, Roval said. You may be something much older, something forgotten. Tomo frowned. I don't want to be a legend. Roval nodded. Then be a man, a good man. That might be even more powerful. The ship turned toward the capital world of the Solari. The stars shifted. Tomo didn't know what waited for him there. Questions, answers, more enemies? But one thing he did know. He wasn't just a mechanic anymore. The Solari capital world was nothing like Earth. As the ship entered orbit, Tomo stared out the window in silence. The planet below was covered in soft golden clouds and giant floating cities that sparkled under its suns. Light bridges connected towers that seemed to float in the sky. Everything looked peaceful, bright, and perfect. He didn't feel peaceful. Tomo's heart beat fast. He had faced danger, yes, but now he was being taken before the High Council of an alien empire. These were the leaders of Irel's people. Royal ones, ancient ones. I shouldn't be here, he whispered, standing beside him. Irel gave him a gentle look. But you are, and you didn't come by mistake. I'm just a man from a mining moon. You saved a princess. You protected the hard stone. And the Nihil fled when they saw you, she said. That matters. Tomo didn't reply. Deep down, he still didn't believe he belonged. The ship landed softly on a glowing platform. Tall guards in silver armor stood in perfect lines. Roval led the way, while Tomo and Irel followed behind him. A soft wind carried the scent of strange flowers. The capital was quiet, but the silence felt heavy, like something was watching. They entered a tall crystal tower. Inside was a round chamber where 12 council members sat in floating seats, shaped like open petals. They wore long robes, and each had silver bands glowing across their foreheads. One of them, an older female, stood. You are the one called Tomo? She asked. He stepped forward slowly. Yes, ma'am. I am Counselor Vina, she said. We have questions, please. Answer with honesty. Tomo nodded. Of course. Vina looked down at a small device in her hand. You saved Princess Irel. You touched the hard stone. It spoke to you. Is this true? Yes, Tomo said, trying to stay calm. I didn't mean to. It just happened. She raised an eyebrow. The hard stone speaks only to bloodlines linked to the first ones. How do you explain this? I can't, he said. I don't know who the first ones are. Another counselor leaned forward. Earth has no record of ancient travels. Yet your reaction to the stone suggests a deeper history. Tomo frowned. I grew up on a colony station. My family didn't even have a last name. Irel stepped forward now. We cannot ignore the signs. Tomo is not just a lifemate. He may be something older, something forgotten. Vina was silent. Then she spoke again. There is one way to learn the truth. He must face the machine of memory. Tomo blinked. The what? It is an ancient device. Roval explained. It can read the deep memory hidden in your blood, your ancestors, your origin. Tomo hesitated. And if I say no, then your bond will be questioned, and the council may break it. Vina said calmly. Tomo looked at Irel. She didn't speak, but her eyes said everything. Trust me. He nodded. Fine, I'll do it. Later that day, Tomo was taken to an old underground hall deep below the capital city. The air smelled of dust and stone. Lights flickered softly across carvings on the walls, images of strange ships, tall humans, and star maps older than time. In the center stood a machine. It looked like a seat made from silver roots, wrapped around a crystal pod. Roval stood beside it. This was found on a dead moon, he said. It was made by the first builders. We don't know exactly how it works, but it reads living memory. Tomo sat slowly. Will it hurt? Not your body, Roval said, but it may shake your thoughts. Irel stepped forward and touched his hand. I'll be here. Tomo gave a short nod. Let's get it over with. The crystal above him glowed. The silver roots closed gently around him. Then everything went dark. Tomo opened his eyes, but he wasn't in the room anymore. He stood in a red desert. Above him, the suns burned. Giant ships flew overhead, old Earth designs, but strange. Soldiers in ancient armor stood in lines. They were humans, but they looked different, taller, sharper. A voice echoed inside his head. The human fire was once feared, until it faded, but some sparks never went out. The vision shifted. He saw stars, battles, a great war between humans and something, with no face, shadow beings with red eyes. Then he saw a child alone on a station. Dirty hands, broken machines. Himself. But behind him, a shadow of someone else, another figure. The same face, but older, wearing old armor. Then light. He gasped and sat up. Irel caught him as he stumbled from the chair. His hand shook. I saw something, he said. Humans from long ago. They fought something dark, and one of them looked like me. Roval nodded. Then it's true. Your blood remembers. You are connected to the ones who came before. Tomel stood still. Why would I remember? Why me? The line must have continued in silence, Iril said. And now, you carry it. Roval turned to him. The council must hear this, but I believe they will accept you now not just as Iril's life mate, but as a bridge between past and future. That evening, Tomel stood again before the council. Then his voice was calm. We have seen the record. The bond remains. Tomel is no longer a question. He is part of our history. The council all bowed their heads. Tomel didn't know what to feel. A part of him still felt like a small man from a mining colony, but another part deeper felt older, stronger. Iril stepped beside him. You don't have to be anything else, she said softly. Just be who you are. Tomel looked out the wide window, where stars shimmered over the city. Who I am, he said slowly, might be more than I ever thought. The council room was quiet. Tomel stood near the tall window, staring at the stars beyond. The news about his bloodline, his ancient human link, and the deep memory had shaken him. He had always believed he was just an ordinary person, just a mechanic from a frozen mining moon. But now everything had changed. Behind him, Iril stepped into the room. The council has approved your request, she said. To Mel turned. To visit Mars. She nodded. Yes. There was once a human colony there long ago. Your vision in the memory chair showed it clearly. The Heartstone may have a hidden connection to that place. Tomel picked up his jacket and looked down. I still don't know why me. Iril smiled gently. Because history forgot your kind. But now history is waking up. The next day, a small ship launched from the Solari capital and entered deep space. Inside were Tomel, Iril, and a small team of Solari researchers and guards. Commander Roval came to, leading the mission himself, Mars. The red planet once watched by telescopes on Earth, now waited in silence. Long ago, it had held many hopes. Then it was abandoned. When they reached orbit, the ship slowed. There, said Roval, pointing to a large crater near the equator. That's the location your memory pointed to. Tomel looked through the window. Inside the crater were ruins buried under sand and rock. Shapes of metal towers, collapsed bridges, and half-covered structures peeked through the dust. They landed near the ruins and stepped outside. The air was thin, and everyone wore light suits for protection. The sky was red, and the wind carried soft waves of dust across the dry ground. Tomel walked beside Iril. Feels strange, he said. Like the past is watching us, she nodded. Maybe it is. Inside one of the buried buildings, they found an entrance blocked by stone and sealed doors. Symbols were carved into the metal, old Earth letters mixed with a forgotten language. Tomel stepped closer. His fingers brushed the panel, and suddenly the door hissed open. Everyone froze. How did you do that? Asked one of the researchers. Tomel shook his head. I didn't do anything. I just touched it. The lock recognized you, Iril said. The system still remembers the builders. Inside the building, they found dark halls with broken lights. Old machines sat covered in dust. Symbols glowed faintly on the walls. Some parts of the colony still had power. Barely in the center of the main chamber, there was a round table with a glass dome above it. Inside the dome, a small red crystal floated in the air, almost like the Heartstone, but different. Tomel stepped forward. His chest felt tight, like something was pulling him. The crystal suddenly flared with light. Words formed on a nearby screen. Old Earth text. Key match found. Bloodline confirmed. Roval read the words. This place was locked, waiting for someone like you. Tomel stared at the crystal. What is it? A soft voice spoke from a nearby machine. It was broken and cracked, but still working. Welcome, Guardian. You have returned. Later, the team gathered in a circle around an old projector that had started to work. A figure appeared, an old recording of a man in armor. His voice echoed through the room. My name is Solon, Captain of Colony Firewatch. If you're seeing this, then our last hope has returned. Tomel listened closely. The Nihil are real. They were born in the shadows between stars. They fear human light, our will, our minds. So they tried to erase us, and they nearly did. Solon looked serious, but some of us survived. We hid our knowledge. We placed the heart stones in safe places. And we waited for a descendant, for a spark. The image faded. Tomel sat down slowly. I'm that spark. It seems so, Iril said. They trusted that someone like you would come one day. In the lower levels of the ruins, they found more in an old lab. Inside it, machines still held stored energy, maps, weapons, and files, memories of a time when humans were more than just survivors. One document showed a map of a galaxy. Red dots marked systems under Nihil control. They're spreading. Again, Roval said, we've seen signs, but this confirms it. Another file showed blueprints. Human designs, weapons that could protect, not destroy. A defense system called Starfire, something even the Nihil feared. But it needs power, Iril said. And a guardian to lead it. Everyone turned to Tomel. He looked around, confused. I don't know how to lead. I don't know how to fight a war. You don't have to know everything, Iril said softly. You just have to try. That's what the first humans did. Tomel looked down at his hands. Once they only held tools. Now they held responsibility. Before they left Mars, Tomel walked alone through the ruins. The wind was gentle now. He placed his hand on the cold wall of the old colony. This place remembers, he whispered. And now, I do too. As he walked back to the ship, the red crystal from the lab floated behind him, quiet, glowing, and waiting. That night, back aboard the ship, Iril sat beside Tomel in the observation room. Stars blinked beyond the glass. What are you thinking? She asked. Mel smiled a little. That maybe I was never just a mechanic. Maybe I was always meant to be something more. She leaned her head on his shoulder. You were always enough, even before the bond. Even before the crystal. He nodded. Then maybe it's time to stop running and start leading, she asked. Tomel looked out at the stars, red crystal in hand. Yes, he said. Let's show them that humanity is not finished. We're just getting started. The ship moved quietly through deep space. Inside, Tomel sat in the control room, staring at the red crystal on the table. It glowed softly, pulsing like a heartbeat. It had come from the ruins on Mars. It was called a star core, and according to old records, it could power the lost human weapon system known as Starfire. Tomel felt the weight of it. He had started this journey as a quiet mechanic. Now, everyone looked at him like he was a leader, symbol of an ancient fire that the galaxy had forgot. Iril entered the room and sat beside him. She looked calm, but her eyes were focused. The council has approved the plan, she said. To Mel. Nodded. We go to Alari's Gate. Alari's Gate was an old relay station near a dead star. It had once been part of the human defense network. Now, it was just ruins floating in space. But according to the files from Mars, it still had deep systems buried below. Starfire could live again if they could wake it up. But there's more, Iril said, lowering her voice. The Nihil fleet is moving. They are coming fast. Tomel leaned forward. How many ships? At least 20. Some are heavy warcraft. The Solari patrols can't stop them alone. He sighed. Then we don't have time. 3 days. Later, Tomel, Iril, and Commander Roval arrived at Alari's Gate. The station drifted above the black surface of a dead star. No light came from below, just a silent pull of gravity. The relay station looked broken. Panels floated away. Parts of it were scorched, but something still waited deep inside. Their landing ship touched down gently on the platform. Energy readings are faint, but the core might still be alive, Roval said. They stepped into the station. The halls were dark, air was thin. Lights flickered weakly as they moved through the broken structure. In the control chamber, Tomel placed the red star core into the center console. It fit perfectly. Suddenly, the room came alive. Lights turned on. Old machines beeped. A low hum filled the air. A voice spoke, crackling through the speakers. Welcome, Guardian. Starfire protocol ready for reactivation. Everyone stared at the console. Tomel took a deep breath. Show me the weapon system. The screen lit up with a map of the area. It showed a circle of defense satellites hidden around the dead star. They were sleeping but still intact. They're all linked, Iroh said. If we power them, they can form a shield wall strong enough to stop the Nihil fleet. Tomel touched the screen. Let's do it. The next hours moved fast. Mel and the Solari crew worked together to restore power. Iroh helped decode the old Earth commands. Roval led the external repairs. For the first time, humans and Solari stood side by side, not just as allies, but as partners. Mel felt it in every wire he reconnected and every panel he fixed. This was what humanity had once built and what it could still become. Finally, the system spoke again. Starfire online, awaiting Guardian's command. Tomel stood at the control station. His hand hovered over the activation switch. Iroh touched his shoulder. This is your choice. He nodded. Let's light the sky. He pressed the switch. Far above, one by one, the ancient satellites came to life. Their cores glowed blue. Their weapons turned outward. The system connected, forming a shield net across the stars. Just in time, because the Nihil had arrived. Outside the station, black ships appeared from the void. They were sharp, silent, and fast. They moved in tight groups, scanning for weakness. At first, they didn't fire. Then one of them sent a message. Give us the star core. Surrender the Guardian. Tomel stared at the message. No, he said. Calmly. The enemy fired. The first blast hit the shield, but Starfire held strong. The satellites responded with bright beams of energy, striking to enemy ships. One exploded. The other spun away in flames. The Nihil turned aggressive. All ships began to fire at once. The sky lit up. Inside the station, Tomel coordinated the defense. He called out energy levels, redirected power, and controlled the satellite pattern. Iroh stood beside him, helping guide the battle. This system was made by humans, she asked. Amazed, yes, Tomel said. Long ago. But I think we can still surprise the galaxy. Raval's voice came through the comms. More Nihil ships incoming. We need a way to finish this. Tomel stared at the screen. There was a weak point, a narrow gap in the Nihil formation. He touched the console. Open pathway 8, fire. Everything at that gap. Starfire responded. 7 satellites turned at once and focused all power on one line. A giant beam shot through the sky, cutting straight into the heart of the Nihil fleet. 3 more ships went dark. The others began to retreat. They're pulling back, Roval shouted. Tomel stood still, watching. He didn't cheer. Not yet. Then, the last enemy ship vanished into the void. It was over. Inside the command room, silence filled the air. Then Iroh stepped forward and smiled. You did it, she said. Tomel sat down slowly. We did it. Outside, the stars were quiet again. The Starfire system still glowed, holding strong. Roval entered the room. He saluted Tomel. Guardian, you have saved not just us but perhaps the future. Tomel looked at him. I'm not a commander. You're something better, Roval said. You're a reminder that humans were never truly gone. Just sleeping. Tomel looked out the window. Somewhere out there, the Nihil were still watching. They had been stopped for now. But this was not the end. That night, Tomel stood alone on the viewing deck. Iroh joined him. Do you think they'll return? She asked. Yes, Tomel said. They always do. Then we'll be ready, she replied. He nodded. Thanks to Starfire. Thanks to Mars. And thanks to this old blood running in my veins. Iroh looked at him with soft eyes. You've changed. Maybe, he said. But maybe I'm just finally becoming who I was meant to be. She smiled. So, still want to go back to fixing drones on a frozen moon? Tomel laughed gently. No, I think I've got bigger things to fix now. Together, they stood under the stars, watching the fire they had lit in the void.